Ladies and gentlemen, persons of all ages, welcome to the wonderful world of plug-in effects. My name's Chris, and I will be your ringmaster through this exciting audio adventure. And if you say it's not exciting, join the club, because most people don't find the first round of working with effects very exciting. It can be daunting, terrifying, and leave you bewildered. That's why I'm creating this series, so that I can take the fear out of your plugins and I can teach you how to be your own audio engineer. That's part of how you're going to be able to create distinguishable character voices for all of your characters in your audiobooks. Now, the very first thing we're going to go over is cleaning. If you've watched my first video on this, I went through and using Reaper, because that's my primary DAW, I have set up a rough template. I did not do each character's effects yet. We're going to do that week by week, just so that we can get them all finished and I can show you my process. But I did set it up with all of the characters that I have right now, including a noise floor, which you can see is empty at the moment, and an extra track just in case we needed it. The very first thing you're going to notice, and this is a standard for me, I absolutely recommend it for everybody, put RIA limit on your master track. This I set to a brick wall of -3. It saves your ears in case you have a loud sound that comes through. These infamous little dog clickers we use will create a loud ringing in your ear. That is why I absolutely recommend always putting a brick wall on your master track. I also have over here RX declip. It is also set at a -3.8, which is a little bit, gives us a little more wiggle room, especially for ACX standards. It's high quality. Post limiter is on. This is actually just a setting right here. It's called vocal mic clipping. The other one that I tend to go to is right here. It is called podcast mic clipping. Those are the two I use. It just gives a smoother, cleaner form. But for right now, those are just sitting there. This guy here is just so I can run this through OBS and have my screen record it and you can hear the audio. So you don't need to worry about these. Now, we set up a bus. We set up all of our tracks, and I went ahead and recorded some sample lines for all of my characters. We'll be using this later on. For today, we're just going to work on cleaning. Now, when you're cleaning, you're going to need a good sample. Right here, I've highlighted my room tone. And it's a decent sized room tone. I have about a minute right now at the beginning. And I would easily just take this section and use the S key, which is one of my favorite go-tos. And I'm going to pull the room tone down to the room tone track, which is right here. This is my dog running past the booth, so I'm just going to use my magic key and delete that because we don't need it. This is where I moved around a little bit. I don't need that, so I'm just going to take that out. And then I know at the end of this, I also have another sample of room tone, but I do not think this is clean enough to use, so I'm not going to use it. If we look at it, it's filled with little garbles. And I believe that was the trash man going by. So we're not going to use that one today. What we will do is come back over to our noise floor. And just a quick reminder, we're going to double click on the gray section over here. Just double click that. It highlights the whole track. Control D will duplicate it as far as you need to go down. For setting up the noise floor, I tend to use only 2 effects. The very first one will be clarity. So in my filters, up at the top is your quick search. I'll just type in CL. Clarity always comes up. I use Clarity VX. This is the blue guy. This is the cheapest version of it. It's from waves.com. This is the only effect I will use at 100% and feel confident that it will not affect my vocals at all. So it will not affect your character voices. It will not affect anything else. It's just for this. It will not take out birds. It will not take out avalanches. And there's one other thing, and if I remember, I'll tell you later. But just be careful of those sounds. For right now, we're going to solo this track. So this is your mute and solo. The only sounds we're going to hear are right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and play it with the effect off. And if you look down here at my noise floor, the middle of this is your mono. The left side and the right side are stereo. So few people tell you that. So the middle is what we're aiming to reduce, and the higher you go, the lower your numbers go. I do try to keep this between a -72 and a -84. Anything below -84, ACX flags you. So for me today, it looks like probably 75 will work. The next one I'm going to put on, this is the only time I will ever use it. Most of the time I don't even use it. And in this case, just watching these go by, I don't even think I need anything else. But if you needed to, you could always go in with NS1. Do not use NS1 on vocal tracks. It will destroy your vocal tracks. It is non-discriminative when it comes to it. I also tend to pick up the VST3s. They work better in Reaper. So now we have this guy up. I am looking at this track level as well as my master. And if I lift this up all the way, you can see it drops it almost completely out. That would get a negative infinite noise floor. If you have to use it on vocals, never go above 17. I wouldn't even go that high. I wouldn't go above 12. In this case, I can push this. Looks like about 43, 45. See, it's taking it out too much. You can see right here, it's too high. You can pull that back. And then you can pull it back even more just to give yourself a little noise floor. You do want a noise floor of some level. That would be all I would put on here. At this point, this is the only track being recorded, so you can't really hear it. That's the point. Now, the next thing I am going to do is I'm going to turn it to a mute. So for the rest of this cleanup video, I'm going to turn that off and leave that off. You can call me the Watcher. I've witnessed Asheville's descent into darkness, and tonight I bear witness to a tale more twisted than the gnarled. Now that we have the cleaners down here, what we really need to do is move this same clarity all the way up to the bus. And you saw it takes a little while to go up and down. That is why I do this guy here. I will stretch him out, and then I will pull these guys over a little bit. And if you play it long enough, you'll get the arrow and you can pull them up. And the reason this one went all the way up is because I just happened to grab on him. So we're going to go to track number 10, which track numbers are on the very left there. So track 10, where clarity is, I'm just going to left click, hold it, drag it all the way over to the bus, which is right there. That's all I'm going to do. It's fast, simple, easy. Click, drag, drop, done. And then I will pull this back down. So at the top of these, you can easily see all of the effects on every track. And then we'll pull it back down. And I'm going to pull it back over here. So that's as hard as that is to do. Now you can see clarity mono. Same exact level is on the bus. If you remember, everything, all of our audio tracks will be run through this, with the exception of the noise floor. The next thing you really need to know is every time you put a plugin on, you're using CPU. So you're using a little more energy, a little more energy, a little more energy. When you use waves, which are very high demanding, that means that you're going to end up with glitches, buffering, and in many cases, it may even shut it down. If you use more than 3 Clarity VXs on one file, you're going to have glitches, and you're not going to understand why. Always check that it's the Clarity doing it. Clarity does it all the time. The next cleaning effects we're going to do are going to be general cleaners for your use. So the number one thing that's recommended to get is RX. And right now we're on RX 11. I've had it long enough. I have a couple versions. So down here we have our RXs. And there we go. It helps if you move it out the right way. So our RXs are isotopes, cleaners. They have a production suite, a music production suite, where you can get not just the RX standard, but you can also get a lot of other plugins for about $20 US a month. I have that. I recommend it. I use multiple of their products all the time. The next one I tend to go towards, and this is only available in standard, is the mouth declick. And then we're going to put that on. Now, I put this on twice. So I will click, drag, and tend to put it on 2 times. Okay. The reason I put it on twice is because I use the presets. I highly recommend the presets. In all of the isotope, right here, 3 dots, 3 dashes equals presets. click on that, I have eliminate clicks, which I need for my personal audio. Most people do need that one. Very often, you will also see that you need to have reduce smacks. So if your mouth is wet and you get that kind of sounds, reduce smacks tends to work very well. I also have created my own version just for my microphone. It works for me. I use it. But I do have those on every time. The next ones that you'll most likely go towards are, you're going to want to grab breath control. Everybody wants to grab the breath control, and I'm going to tell you not to. Taking breaths out or lowering the breath sounds is so easy to do by hand. What this does is it's going to eliminate certain frequencies, and when it does that, it tampers with your voice. I never recommend this. Please try to do it by hand if you can. It's a lot easier, faster, especially with this method that we're using. De-click is another popular one. I may or may not use it. For my personal audio, I don't use it. When I'm working with other people's audio, I will use it depending on if they have a natural click in their room, like a chair, or the desk is wobbly or something of that nature. Again, I will go through and play with a lot of this. Now, they do have some for mouth noise in here if you want to get into it. Periodic clicks is one I use a lot. Same with thumps. You just need to go in and see what works. Be careful. Some of these are very hard on your audio, and you want to be as gentle as possible. So that's another one we use typically. De-clip, we already have that up here. We already talked about having it on your master. The reason I love de-clip is the RX de-clip takes your waveform that's at a peak and it will smooth it over like an ice cream cone, versus other de-clicks that literally just go chop, chop, chop across the top. This is the one time a de-clip would ever be good for audio, for vocals, is because this one rounds the top and keeps it nice and smooth. The next ones that you're going to hear a lot on is going to be the de-esser. They have a decent de-esser for RX. If you're going to invest in products, RX Standard is definitely one to invest in, and so is Waves Clarity. The de-esser, again, I would do this on a recording by recording basis, because you do get sibilant sometimes, and then other times you're not sibilant. So I would actually play with this. Podcast, anything podcast tends to work wonders in your typical audiobook narration. I don't really use the sibilants because I intentionally use sibilants for character voice. I may make a character sibilant just to irritate people because they're a bad guy or whatever. So be careful how you use it. De-hum is used for removing something such as your computer noises. I'm careful. I don't use this one often because I find it takes out my vocal range. And for other cleaners, I have RX Reverb. Does not work very well in my experience, and I've done it with a lot of audio right now. I would go to Clarity VX. They have a Reverb that is very precision oriented. That's one of my favorite go-tos. Some people like cheating and going to this guy. This is a newer one for RX11. It's called Dialogue Isolate. Dialogue Isolate will take all vocals out. It will help you to lift your vocals. It will take out reverb to a degree, and it will take out noise. Again, if you go too low on your noise, you're going to damage your audio. This is a great concept. There are multiple variations of this style plugin. VCX is another one that comes to mind. There's quite a few of them. I don't care for them for the reason that when you go to master this, when you go to run it through your bounce, your export, your renders, whatever your DAW calls it, this 9 times out of 10 will cause a problem. So I do not use them at all. I have put them on, but I personally don't like them. I would rather go in by hand. You're not really going to use the guitar denoise. We went over mouth click. Repair assist is another one that I don't like. Okay, so this is, again, an automatic. It scans it. It cleans it up. Yes, it works to a degree. No, I don't use it because this guy will take 3 times longer to play with every single feature. It also is really CPU heavy. All of these learning AI variations are CPU heavy. So Dialogue Isolate and Repair Assist, if you have a weaker computer, they're just going to bog you down. It's also why you would only put it on a bus. Or if you're doing a single track, I would put it on the single track. The other one that I don't really touch too much is denoise. Can you do it? Yes. Learning mode you can do. It does have presets as well. It does not do as much as you want it to do. It really doesn't. And unless you know audio engineering, be careful with it. The other ones are Spectral Editor. And let's see if it's going to bring up Spectral Editor for me. And it doesn't want to bring it up. So let's take him off and we'll put Spectral Editor back up. Okay. The Spectral Editor, I don't see a point in it most of the time, and it's because I'm playing that it's not pulling it up. Okay, it needs a media item. So we'll put it on here just to show you what it does. Spectral Editor, when you start playing, it's supposed to basically do this. So if I take this off mute, you can see I have a spectrogram down here. That's what Spectral Editor does. It shows you the spectrogram. If you need to use it, use it. I tend not to use the spectrogram at all, or the Spectral Editor. It just has no function when I use the built-in voice denoise. This one, if I were to use it, I would use it on specific tracks, not as an overall. And the reason for it is that it'll give you a nice, clean, surgical output. And yes, I would recommend coming in and doing something like podcast or whatever you need for that day. But I would do a surgical. One thing I haven't said is do not ever hit the add button unless you're creating your own modes, because all it does is add a new preset. I don't use this. Don't need it right now, so I'm going to take that off. My go-tos are already up here. The reason this is blank is because it's showing these three on the right, which is fine. The other things that I would go into are some of the RIAs. So RIA is done by Kakos, which is a side chain of Reaper. So these are Reaper plugins. These are the ones you would download in your extensions, your SX or SEX files or SXE files. Your RIA pack here, SWS, there you go. So you would download these from the RIA or from the Reaper website. These to go into, I do not use a compressor on the bus. I compress each of my tracks individually because your compressor can greatly affect and change how your vocals sound. I will do a video on compressors. But here's RIA Comp. This looks terrifying. It's not. But it does a lot of things. So be careful using your compressor. And again, I'll do a whole video on those because I have several of them that I use that I like. The next thing you're going to hear a lot of use on are going to be things like, where did it go? There's a lot of RIAs. Sethrika. I'm looking for my RIA EQ. Here she is. Okay. I use RIA EQ all the time. Now, I'm going to play my track, which, again, it is in mute mode, so you're not going to be able to hear it, because I want you to see it. I actually want you to just see what's going on. Yeah.
Finds me closer to this world.
I have to actually play it, apparently.
You think you can destroy me with your toys?
You can see all the waves.
I am eternal.
As they're moving, so you can run your track.
Fools.
And you can see where you're.
You think that trinket will save you?
Now, for me, I have what's called a little high noise up here. I would go down to a high pass on number 1, bring it out.
Fools.
And I'm going to run it right here.
Fools. You think that trinket will save you?
There we go. We're going to run it right here so we can see. Here's the high noise. This is computer noise. And then once you get it where you're not cutting off your voice, and guys, be very careful. Women in the higher frequencies can normally run up into probably the low 250. I tend not to. But I will take number 2 and I will counterbalance it until I get it flat. So 1 is to decide how far out it goes. Number 2 is just to get it so it's flat. Now, if you have the opposite issue and all of your noise is over on the other side here above the 20K, you would take your last plug-in or your last number here, and you would put on a low pass, if it'll let me. There we go. Sometimes you just have to enable things. And you could do the exact same thing over here. This range is typically lights and electrical. This would be lower rumbles from fans and the internal heating systems that you would have for furnaces. Those tend to be over on this side. This side is mainly electrical, and it's a really high-pitched buzz. So you would cut that off, use the second one to level this off as much as possible, and bring that down. So that's your high pass and your low pass. Low is a higher number. High is the opposite. So that is a basic EQ. So again, all I did was I played with this until I can hear it cutting off the rumble without cutting off my voice. And mine's about at 133. Use this number 2 to flatten that line back out. And that's your pass there. And you do the same thing on the other side. Be careful going above 17 because that is vocal range for most people. So 17,000 hertz, 17K on this side, you're touching vocals. So be careful. The next ones that we do, those are the two main cleaning ones. Here's another one some people recommend called rear gate. And I'm going to absolutely tell you not to use it. Gating can be heard very easily. If you listen to some people's audio, you can tell they're using a gate because it's very quiet in between their words. And then all of a sudden you hear some big zzz behind everything they say. It's annoying. A lot of people hate it, listening to it. For a long time, ACX said no gates because it's off-putting. I agree with it. I don't use gates. Clarity works better than a gate. So Clarity VX works 100 times better than this gate. Okay. I would always do that. Now, if you are putting on our friend the high-low pass that we just went over, put it as the first thing on your track. Very first thing. Order counts in this. So high-low pass first. Clarity VX to wash everything else. And then go down with your RX effects. So anything for denoising, removing smacks, clicks, pops, those would come underneath. If you can avoid using an EQ for high-low pass, go for it. I almost always use my friend Clarity here. And if you have, and I'm going to show you this because I do have this, so I'm going to put Clarity, I'm going to put Clarity up here. So this is Clarity's D-reverb versus Clarity, the cleaning guy. The cleaning guide, don't mess with anything. You normally don't have to play with any settings except for this wheel in the middle. Whereas on the reverb, you may have to do the wheel, you may have to change to dialogue 2, to singing. You may have to play with that. You may have to go presence down or up. This is a playing game until you get something you like. If you don't trust your ear, have someone else help you. 2 sets of ears are better than 1. But this is Clarity D reverb if you have to have it. What I'm going to say is you should never have to use a reverb. You should have padding all around you. Your microphone should be at least 8 to 10 inches off of any hard surface. So desks will create a reverb. The waves go down, smack the desk, come up, smack the microphone, and that's your reverb. Try to keep the microphone floating. So for mine floats right here above my head. I have another one that floats right here above my head. They are both off of the walls, so that when they're in use, they are not, for any reason, bouncing off the ceilings or off hard surfaces such as wall, and I have a shelving unit back here. So if you can take care of it that way, go for it. Bedding is your best friend. Nice thick covers, blankets, and bedding work a lot better than those really unhealthy, unhygienic packing blankets and moving blankets. Absolutely do not recommend those for any reason. I would tell you to go down to your thrift store, secondhand shop, yard sales, and snatch up all the bedding possible. Nice thick bedding will absorb more sound. Also, don't keep it flat. Wrinkle it up. You want it bunched up, because that will also remove a lot of the reverb. If you have things flat, even if it's fabric and you have it flat, and I'm trying to look for something, I do have some. If you have fabric that's flat, it will go boom, 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 boom. So your sound waves literally going like this and bouncing back. Whereas when you have it scrunched up, pleated up like you would for any curtain in your house, what happens is now you have places to capture and hold your sound waves. So it's going in, holding, and it's not coming back out. Goes in, it holds it, and doesn't come back out. That's what you want when you're doing things like this. You want little pockets. So pocket to jump it in is what you need. That will help with reverb. Take care of the reverb before you record. That's plain and simple. No hard surfaces, if at all possible. Always use soft, and don't use anything made of plastic. Those moving blankets, shipping blankets everyone recommends, they're 100% plastic. They're recycled plastic. I watched a video, I'll link the video below, on how they make those things. They're disgusting. If you have allergies, if you have asthma, good luck not being sick, because they will make you sick. They will make you very sick. That's kind of why I say get anything else. You don't need these things up here. I put them up for decoration. I don't need them. They actually hurt my sound quite a bit. So this is your atypical little sound absorbers. Amazon, 20-something bucks US. You can use them, but you don't need to. Lights like this, not good in here. I'm doing it for video, so I have lights. and you can actually see me. I'm not sitting in the dark, but this will be picked up. So these nice pretty LED strips are picked up in your audio every single time. Don't use them while you're recording. I have problems with all LEDs. I have not found an LED that does not end up picking up in all of my audio. So kind of be careful with that. Prevention is key. Don't have the sound in there and you're great. One thing I have been experimenting with is it's called Faraday fabric over top of electric. Don't put it anywhere near your audio interface because it will destabilize the magnet in it. Learned it the hard way. But putting it over things like these kind of lights that emit electrical signal, even when they're not plugged in, they still have a little bit radiating through them. That will get picked up in your microphone. So keep your mics away from these kind of things and don't use them in your booth if you can avoid it. The other ways to keep your audio sounding nice, and I know we've gone over a lot of two of the waves effects I use, but we've also gone through our RIA effects. You can take out a lot of sound through RIA EQs. I will do a video on EQing at some point. The RX, it doesn't matter if you have 7, 11, 9, 10, whatever. They come out with one every couple years. I have tons of effects in here. I can sit here and tell you, okay, you want to go through ML audio. We can sit there and do that for a while. We can go through waves cleaners. They have some nice de-essers as well. We can go through SSL, which is solid state logic. Doesn't matter what brand. Play with your effects. Make a day to just sit, record 5-10 minutes that will not drive you insane when you listen to it on repeat, and then go through your effects and set up your cleaners. So for this, the whole point is test, play until you got it sounding the way you think it should sound. Then go through and hit this guy called a render. I am going to leave it on untitled because I'm going to just do a run through on a dry. Dry run means that you don't actually save any files, but what it's going to do is produce a solid track. I accidentally left this in stereo mode, so we're going to have duplicates. Do not leave it in stereo mode, put it in mono. Now, it's coming out, and what I want to show you are the important numbers here. This is RMS, and that is what ACX goes by. It's RMSI is the number you're looking for, and your true peaks. They want a true peak of -3, and they want an RMSI of -20. Well, I believe it's -24 to -18 is what they do, but most people throw it on 20. This is an easy way to see it come out. This track will not pass just because I have not done the gain staging. But I do want to show you that this does work here. But right here in the middle, all of this is nice and clean now. And that is very important, is that we have it nice and clean. This guy here is your normal fade. If you turn that on, normalize, RMSI, set your number to 20. Adjust mono media to additional -3. Yes, that was put in just for ACX users. Normalize files that are too loud or too quiet. Your choice. Normalize each file separately. No. You don't really want these. Normalize to loudest file. Normalize as if one long file. We want it all to be one smush. Okay? Your brick wall, you can set that safety brick wall here as well of -3. I normally leave this guy alone and go with this setting. That is how I end up getting my ACX standards approved. Obviously, you would not do WAV file. You'd go through MP3, turn your tail off. The tail adds a little clip at the end that hits the negative infinite noise floor. Always turn that off. Save it wherever you're supposed to save it. 4100 hertz is your standard, and mono is your standard for ACX. I work in stereo, so I would leave mine in stereo. I also work in 4800, which creates a larger file. But when I go to render, I do render in 41100. So these are your typical setup. No tail. Turn on your normalize. Make sure you're in MP3 mode. You're in consistent bit rate, which you have multiple in here for music. You want consistent. And 192. So that is not your standard setup. Please set it to 192. That is what ACX wants. That is the bit rate they tell you to set it to. That is when you'll go in dry run. If you're questioning your audio, always do a quick dry run. This will go a little faster now that I turned off that. Or it might not go faster. But this is all you're going to be doing to look for your RMSIs and your true peaks. And like I said, mine are going to fail because I have not mastered this. I have not even gain staged it yet. We will get into gain staging. Gain staging does tremendous work for you. So, for cleaning today, we are done. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, and I will do my best to answer them. But for today, I'm going to say goodbye and go record something. Set up your next audio project.